Welcome to Serial Podcast 9.
Hey, I'm Gerard from SerialNine.
And I'm Kevin from SerialNine.
And I'm Ryan from Dodo Logic. And this is Serial Podcast 9, episode
26.
84 and a half. Perfect. All right. Let's see. What's on the docket tonight? I don't
What do you
have
got for us, Ryan?
I don't have a real topic, but I was talking to John Dawson because he was talking to me about Celsius. And then I was like, hey, do you have any topics for the show? And he responded, Mazda 3s. And I was like, oh, what about them? And he said, they're surprisingly controversial. And then he said, just joking. But then we do shit on Mazda 3s a little bit. Or I think Gerard, like whenever you list a bad example of a car, a lot of times it's a Mazda 3.
Yeah, and I mean, I do have experience with Mazda 3s and Mazdas generally, and Mazda Speeds and Mazda Proteges. And I don't know, when the Speed came out, it was kind of sick because it was like already like gnarly. But like when the Protege 5 came out, we built so many of those. Paulo had one. We built the motors repeatedly. Like the cars, like I don't know what to say about Mazdas generally. Like, I mean, even FDs, I guess they're decent, but like I never ever held Mazda in like high regard as far as quality. It's like Honda, Toyota, that's it. Mazda and Nissan are just like, I don't know. At least Nissans are kind of like cool, whereas like maybe I just don't really think Mazda 3s. I mean, they're always fun. Like they're, fast steering.
I think I went to look at a Protege that was like 8 years old at the time, and it was just completely rusted out. And I was like, how is this even possible? And Gerard was like, no, I mean that's pretty par for the course. Like,
yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah, like Paulo bought one brand new, and like we did a bunch of shit to it, and like he turboed it and this and that. But that was a Protege. But anyways, Mazda 3s.
I feel like they're like the new Cavalier or something. It's like a girl's car, like people, and then like it's a super low level entry like car scene car. Like,
yeah, I feel like it's like what people buy if they for some reason don't want to buy a Civic. They're like, Civics are kind of whack, so I'm going to get a Mazda 3. And it's like, well, I mean, sure, go ahead, buy a Mazda 3, but like, they're shit, man. Like, so when I was a Mazda 5, basically the same exact car, suspension, everything's the same. Like, the thing literally drives like garbage. And I've had to replace like LCA bushings, like sway bar bushings, top hat bushings, like literally and it's a 2010, and we bought it with 65,000 kilometers on it. Like, I mean, fuck that. Like, I don't know, like what you think quality is, but 65,000 kilometer replacing like I guess because they're shared with Ford, maybe that's why. Like, those are all Ford products, so it's like that's your answer.
I was gonna ask. Like, does the Ford, the Ford partnership somehow like sully those cars a bit? But it is funny, when I had my Mazda MX-3, it was like dudes that did engine swaps or motor swaps on those were taking like Ford Probe engines, like the Ford Probe GT engine, and trying to put it in the car. And I was like, and then like
there's been like multiple local JDM cars that have been taken out by Mazda 3s.
I mean, that MSR motor is really good, like the Mazda Speed, like the Mazda 3 motor or the Speed motor or whatever. It when it came out, it was like for a short time rivaled the K series as far as flow went and stuff. And like they definitely make a shit ton of power. I think Mazda Speed 3 is like, or any of those turbocharged MSRs, like I think they can make like pretty good power, like relatively reliably. I don't know, maybe 400 horsepower, and then they got to build them and stuff. I mean, it's still attached to a Mazda 3, so
I feel like that's kind of though isn't that the essence of what the car, like the import car scene originally was? Also, I'm not defending Mazda 3s. I'm just curious because you said like you get a Civic or you're like, no, I'm different, which is what a Gerard would say. I'm different. You get a Mazda 3, but isn't that was like the point of Hondas where they were never like super fast out of the box? Well, some of them were ish, but you could like build them to be something. Does that not kind of like connect to the spirit of that? Or
well, yes, except that a Honda is a quality product, right? Like a Civic is a good car. It's a quality car that lasts. Like you could beat the shit out of a Civic, and I mean, like I don't think a Mazda 3 is the same. Like you can't beat the shit out of it, and I mean, honestly, like personally, I guess my biggest pet peeve with Mazda 3s is like the owners. Okay, so if you're gonna see a car that's probably like for example myself, if I'm gonna see a car that I hate the absolute most, it's gonna probably be a Mazda 3. It's got like, I don't know, it's flat black, it's got like bolt-on flares that were not made for the car. They're just like super ugly. The wheels are horrendous, and like it's kind of not low, and it's got like a burble tune, but like not like a cool burble tune because it makes 500 horse, and like, but it's like a burble tune that's on maximum at 2000 RPM. And it's just like obnoxious. It's ugly.
It has like the subway handle and like the shocker sticker. And like that's what I mean. It's like that's the car you see that has the spray painted stock purple wheels and the like locally hated sticker. And like the guy just tries the most.
Yeah, it's for some reason a Mazda 3 owner somehow has to try the most. Probably that same mentality where it's like maybe it's not a Civic, so it's a Mazda 3. So like he has to try to like gain some respect of like the Civic guys. It's like, hey, look at my Mazda 3. It's like, it can be cool. Look how cool my Mazda. Like literally, if you just dump the living shit out of it and like put some remotely cool wheels on it, it'd be 8 times cooler than like bolted on flares, swastikas, and I don't know, man. Like just
swastikas. Who's doing that?
I don't know, man. Like just Google Mazda 3 on the internet. You'll see it. Like there's
I don't
so
want
many.
to screw up my algorithms, so I'm not going to do
Like
that.
I've seen ones like at car shows and like the fenders are rubbed through from the tires and stuff, and like that's supposed to be not in my books, man. Like if your tires are rubbing through your fenders and your car isn't even that low, you clearly have either shit suspension or shit fitment, or just the car's a piece of shit.
I wonder if they do the things that are quote the most, because those cars are essentially everywhere, right? You do the things that are the loudest, like visually or actually like decibel, so that you'll stand out from the crowd of the rest of the Mazda 3s.
You're just not like every other girl driving into college.
Yeah,
people are like,
exactly,
there's that guy.
I mean,
he likes cars.
Okay, like the newest gen Mazda 3, I know there's a pretty cool one. I think his name is like Hatch Coupe or something. And like it's those new ones that you hate, Kevin, where it looks like an egg, but I think they look super dope. But like they have the flat front, and like those cars look sick to me. Like the latest ones like look dope. But the previous gen, like I hate them. But I haven't seen one of the previous gen that I think is like, yo, that's kind of sick. Like, you know, just super low, clean, fitted. Like it's not like trying super hard. It just is actually a nice car.
You know what's going to happen? Now people are going to send me photos of that car, like of a good version, and be like, maybe you can pass that along to Gerard. Like they won't send them
you're
to
the gatekeeper.
I don't want it. I don't want that responsibility. Okay, so Mazda 3's trying the most. Is that your most hated car, you think? Like in the tuner scene and in the import culture that we exist in, is that your least favorite car of the moment?
I mean, realistically, I don't like hate that many cars, but generally when I'll see a Mazda 3 that's got bolt-on flares and a burble tune and some like XXRs, I'm like, of course. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, there's no car that makes you facepalm as much as Mazda 3s, you know? It's like that guy, you know? Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
I feel like Tiburons were there for a while, but like now those cars are probably just all destroyed.
And a Genesis. What about a Genesis?
Like a Genesis, at least to me, is, you know, a rear-wheel drive sports car.
Genesis could be cool.
The thing is also like putting fender flares on your car is kind of like it's like a pretty savage mod. Like you're cutting the car. So like even though G35s, for example, are like relatively hated, you don't really get a lot of G35 guys running like super ugly bolt-on flares because like maybe they just don't want to cut their car up. Whereas like maybe a Mazda 3 owner is like, yo, like I don't give a fuck, man. Like it's gonna look sick. Like my car is only $20 anyways. Like, you know, it's like the attitude of like I don't care, but I actually totally care. And it's like I'm gonna do all this stuff to my car to make it look a certain way, but like in actuality, I just made my car look kind of crappy. So
yeah. I like when people put the bolt-on fender flares, but they don't cut the fender.
They don't.
Man. Yeah. I bet you if you looked underneath half of them, it's probably like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Like move them lower so that the car isn't actually even lowered. It just has flares. It looks so
lower.
So Kevin, that's your least favorite car in the scene right now is the Mazda 3 as well.
I mean, I don't really see them in the scene that much, though.
Yeah,
You know, they're not.
You don't go to the
super
meets.
prevalent car. That's the thing. And maybe I'm not like out in the streets. You know.
Yeah, that's actually how I feel about them too, though. I don't see a ton of Mazda 3s in my world.
You also don't live in like Langley-ish area. I mean, there's a
fair.
few of them here.
Yeah.
For sure. Like I would say
tax
like
brackets.
Coquitlam. No. I mean, I would just say like Coquitlam, Surrey, Langley, probably maybe a bit of Burnaby. You'll see Mazda 3s.
Right.
No, but I do kind of agree with Ryan, though. It is a little bit about tax brackets, because I remember like growing up, like once you would go into the burbs, you'd see like young girls that had like modified Civics or whatever, but you would never see that in Vancouver. They would just have like a 328 or something, or
yeah.
I mean, I think yes and no. Like, I think it's also just a culture thing, man. Like, people live in the suburbs, like they have a bunch of cars. Like if you take 5 girls that live downtown and 5 girls that live in the suburbs, chances are, 4 girls in the suburbs have cars, and like 2 girls in downtown have cars. So like,
yeah, but that's fun. I'm with Kevin on this, though. I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast. So the one was like, I didn't really have a full top-down view of drifting until I went to the US and saw like the crowds attached to it. What we're into, fairly blue collar, like import car culture is like a fairly blue collar culture, I think.
As opposed to like Ferraris and Porsches and stuff, you mean?
Just like car customization racing? And like just being into cars, and then like the price point attached to the cars that we're into. There's exception to the rules, but I think a lot of the time the import car culture group it's fairly blue collar. How many people do you know that work in offices that are into cars?
How many blue collar dudes own and drive a Porsche and race it? Probably none. Every single one of those guys is a fucking like a white collar dude, 100%.
Yeah. But that's a different car scene than our car scene.
I mean, technically, but I mean, you're modifying
That's not
cars.
the import car scene that he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about like Japanese, like where we're shitting on Mazda 3 dudes, but like if I went to a Porsche meet with the Aristo, they'd be like, what the fuck is this guy about? Like I will say the other point to like what Kevin was saying, like you come downtown, I have a friend that lives in Yaletown, and when she was looking to buy a car, she was like, so I'm either getting a Mercedes or a BMW. And I was like, why don't you get a Lexus? It's probably way better value and like a better built vehicle. And she's like, oh, I don't live in Richmond. Like it was like this sense of like a big identity.
Sounds like your friend has fucking issues with like other things versus just like, you know what I mean? Anyways, yeah. Like if she scoffed at a Lexus, sounds like a bit of a stuck-up snob.
Yeah, to us. But then when you go down into Yaletown, there aren't a ton of Lexuses.
So you're trying to be even more quintessential? Like,
yeah, no, but that's exactly it. If
like even more,
if
so
I
the
see her
stereotype?
wearing a leather jacket, and then I'll be like, oh, is that what they're wearing in Yaletown now? And she's like, yeah. And then I'll go to Yaletown and I'll see like 5 girls get out of an Uber all wearing the exact same leather jacket. Like it's not about being the Gerard in this situation and being like, well, I'll be the one dude that wears a denim jacket, like about being different. There is that sense of like buying an image. No, but I get what you're saying though, because you're like, I live in Vancouver, so I would never see a Mazda 3. And then we were just saying like it's tax brackets. It's tax brackets to the image that you're attached to.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to.
But I know, like I said that point, but I do agree with Gerard's point. It's like like you can't have 5 vehicles living downtown unless you're like crazy rich.
Agreed.
And I mean,
you could have 5 vehicles living in the suburbs.
But I have 2 vehicles. I live in Vancouver. You have how many vehicles, Kevin?
Yeah, but I mean, I only have 1 vehicle here at a time, and it's parked on the street.
Very sneaky, like.
Also, I know 2 people personally that lived downtown in like condos or whatever you want to call them that had like a bunch of crazy cars. Like the one dude I did work for was like a French guy that moved from like Quebec, and he had this hot rod van, like an A100 Econoline or something. And it was like crazy. And that was like his second vehicle. And he had some other like whatever. And then that kid with the JZX90 and the 180SX and that dude lived downtown.
I'm not saying that they don't exist. Obviously, you're also talking to me, and I have a car that is, of a certain flavor.
Yeah, I think it's just image.
Few and far in between.
We definitely know people that have a fuck ton of money that are super into cars.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's tax bracket or just culture.
Maybe. And look, they're like, when I met the Good Vibes guys, most of them lived in Vancouver. Like Dimoff lives in Vancouver proper. Like if we're at a car show, especially the scene that we're into, it's not generally a lot of like super wealthy people. You can be well off, but it's not like the rich. It's not like, because those dudes have Porsches or they have Mercedes or they have a Lambo or, and again, though, Gerard, there are exceptions to the rule. And
I know what you're saying. Like, why would you modify a car? Like if I could just tomorrow have so much money that I didn't have to like build the Blit to be anything, I would just go buy, I don't know, a
Taycan.
what I buy.
Yeah, like you forgot that you love the Porsche.
Well, no, I'm just talking about like a comparable vehicle. Like let's say I bought like a Euro Market 3 Series or 5 Series wagon that like was manual and had 500 horsepower stock or something like that. I might do that, I guess.
Right.
Maybe if I had.
I just came to a point where I was like, more often than not, dudes like me don't end up with a lot of money, because then those are the guys that are like, well, I'll have 8. It's like the Kevin thing of like, I will have all the shit boxes, like bring me all the shit boxes. I'll have S15s and Skylines and old Datsuns. But it's like, typically the people that have that amount of money a lot of times seem to want to have like the status symbol cars as well. So maybe I'm just talking in like big generalizations and I'm just
that's the
real
thing too,
mad
is like
at the rich. I don't know.
But that's the thing is like, it may be blue collar, but if you add up all the money and time that people actually put into like really being in the scene, it's probably way more money than a lot of those white collar dudes spend on their cars for sure.
Again,
that's what I was about to say. It's
how
like,
many S13s do you think cost 20 grand?
Well,
probably more like 40
now.
grand.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like they're probably actually like realistically 30 to 40K.
I want you to know that I'm on your side.
No, I know. I'm just saying that that's
I totally
and that's
agree.
what I think. I think if you're from a rich family, they're gonna not let you do that because they could tell you what a bad decision that is, and they just won't even let you do it. Almost,
Yeah, you don't
But
get
like
money
when you're
by
like
throwing it at
when
a
you're like a
Mazda 3.
blue collar kid. When you're like a blue collar kid, like working a job and like living at home, they're just like, yeah, whatever. Like,
yeah, that's not drugs, and like, yeah.
Well,
also,
now you're stuck.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, like, I guess that the culture that comes with being rich, if you will, isn't conducive to knowing about fucking import cars or modifying cars. Like, you're rich, man. You probably got a fucking nice car. You're probably not super into cars. You probably just into fucking something else, like
watches.
Maybe if you're into cars, you're probably into like brand new high-end cars, Mercedes, BMW, McLaren, Lamborghini, whatever. Like if you could buy and drive a Lambo, why the fuck are you buying an S15 or maybe you buy an M4? You know what I mean? Like that's
why. No,
that's what you're doing. You know what I mean?
No, and that's totally it. And the thing is if you're really into cars and you have a ton of money, then you're probably into like that, like yachts or like
sailing.
The period correct Porsches. Like, bring me all the air cooled Porsches, please.
Collector,
but I mean, no, I don't even
watches.
think that's how it works. It's like they're like, oh, I got the new 992 GT3. Oh, really, man? I got the brand new Cayman GT4. Like, I think that's how it goes. It's not like you don't even fucking look beyond 5 years. You're just like, oh yeah, like the newest, most expensive thing. That's what I want. Like,
yeah.
Have you seen the new X5M or whatever? Like, oh, I got a kid now, so I'm thinking of buying a Urus. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I will say it's interesting. The CEO of my company, like, he had like a classic Porsche. Like that was like, but he was into cars. Like that's what he did before he got into like tech. So like, and they're all like SaaS guys. So they're like kind of like
full blue collar.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit more, yeah. Like I don't think I'll cut that out in case they ever for some reason listen to this. But yeah, like a little bit.
I mean, kind of a good example.
I don't think that's like an offensive thing, and I think you're totally right. It's like if you're coming from a rural town, you're inherently going to be more blue collar. Like you're going to,
You didn't grow up in West Van. Like that's vastly different than starting a business and becoming successful. You weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
No, that's fair. So
good example. Last night I'm driving back from Gordon's place, Highway 10 coming back, see a Huracan behind me. I'm like, oh, sick. Like I'm revving it, whatever. Like, so I turn left, I go first, second, third. And then because like Dominic and Alistair in the car, they're like, oh yeah, the Huracan, whatever, cool. And I look back, dude is like miles behind me. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like he's got a Huracan, like at least drive it a little bit. So I slow down and I kind of like wait for the guy because I'm like Dominic wants to see the Huracan. It's like a lime green, like Huracan Evo, like all-wheel drive. I'm like, okay, sick. That's kind of sick. Dude, guy's driving so slow, man. Like so slow. And I'm just like, okay, like rev it a bit, like kind of play with him, like just take off so my son can hear your car, like do anything. And like, dude, he didn't even look at my car. And it's like, it's a fucking loud. I mean, I guess like maybe it's just, he just thought maybe it just some shitty Mazda 3-ish loud, noisy car. But I mean, like the sound of a 1J, if you're into cars even a little bit, like the sound of a 1J is not the sound of a fucking Mazda 3. You know what I mean?
So I'm going to say there's probably a few options of what could have happened here. One, this is going to be the maybe the most heartbreaking of them, is that it's so far beneath them that he just doesn't give a shit. It's
yeah,
just like,
I mean that's entirely what I was trying to.
I mean that happens to us. You know, there's those dudes that are like revving their car up at you and like trying to stare at you, and you're just like, you don't even want to look at them. You know,
eyes forward. That's what I was getting at.
The thing is, man, that has to be a pretty like that. I guess to me that's probably a Mazda 3.
Yeah,
but like if it's a kind of a cool Mazda 3, like I'll still look over and be like, yo, that's sick. But if it's like an obnoxious, over-fendered, burble tune, fucking purple wheel Mazda 3, I'm not looking. But like,
yeah, but I mean,
but then I guess my taste is not everyone's taste. Like maybe that guy was like,
look, the Blit isn't on wheels right now. Like the Blit's just lowered on start, so it's just like this dude in a wagon trying to like race him with his kids in the back. It's objectively, it's a weird like thing for that guy. He's probably like, man, this car is like worth X amount more than, it's like, I'm not even gonna bother. Also, it's a bit of a status symbol. Now the other part that would be fun to think, and it has happened, is the dude didn't want to do anything because there are always those situations where it's like the guy in the like Lambo is like, oh, I'm going to roll this guy, and then he gets rolled by like a shitty like Japanese car, and they're like, what the fuck just happened?
Or just rolls it into a telephone pole.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but my sort of like diagnosis was that the guy was just super lame, because like even when we turned left and he went straight, he was in fucking fourth gear by the time he got across the intersection. It was just like brr, 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 brr.
Maybe he's just not trying to draw attention to himself in his lime green Lamborghini.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have a Lamborghini if you don't know what the fucking gas pedal's for. Like, just my thought.
Well, he's got the money, so he gets to do what he wants. I don't know what to tell you.
It's disrespectful to the car.
It's disrespectful. That guy though is
the Lambo's screaming like, buddy, fucking show this stupid wagon what's up. Like just let him at least hear the exhaust. Like, come on. And he's just like in like seventh. Like it
maybe
wasn't
that
even
guy was just like, this isn't worth me possibly getting a ticket. Or
this isn't worth me dropping 3 gears so they can hear how cool my car sounds.
But don't you think it'd be interesting to take a bunch of like the guys that spend tons and tons of money on their car and then actually like break it down and figure out like almost like why they chose that car, or if they're actually into it, or like what it's actually about? Like,
yeah, exactly. Oh, it was like, green. I liked it.
Yeah, well, it was a green Lamborghini.
Yeah, you know? It's a Lamborghini. I could afford it.
I couldn't afford not to buy it.
Okay, so conversely, you want to know something crazy? I was taking Dominic somewhere one time, and you see this there's a girl walk out with this kid. I think it was a grocery store or something. It's like a yoga place or whatever, right? She walks out, grabs her kid, whatever.
Was it a Whole Foods? It sounds like
No, this is in Surrey. Like, okay. I mean, it's like a.
So was her kid in the car when she was doing yoga, or?
I don't know. I think she maybe the kid was waiting. I don't know. Anyways, so they walk out. Ferrari, like, I don't know, it was like a 488 or one of these new ones. I don't know. I don't even know what they're called anymore, but it was like the kind with the like crazy LED front headlights and shit. And like she drove it cool. Like she left the place, didn't leave first gear, like through the parking lot, was like in first gear. She had selected first gear, not like auto. You know what I mean? Right. Like she drove through the parking lot in first gear and then like rolled through first and then grab second. I was like, yes, like sick.
Good.
Just like in
I would just want to point out how far we got from what's
Mazda 3s.
up with Mazda 3s.
I swear another question came up, didn't it?
Yeah, that is that.
But I mean, we come back to Mazda 3s a bunch.
Yeah.
I think they look like the new gen of all the Mazdas, Mazda 3, Mazda 6, like, I mean, even the CX-5 or whatever, like that whole flat grille thing, they look so sick, man. They're definitely upscale, and the interiors are so nice, and like they definitely look sick. But I hope the underpinnings are like better than the last gen, because they're just so trash.
Fair. I still stick to G35s are my least favorite car. Just can't.
But I think it's probably a lot of it's from when you had
At least
those experiences back in the day with the 350s in Saskatchewan that you're saying.
At least the G35 is like
can drift.
Like,
but I think that's why I have.
It's like V6. Like
that's why though is it's more in my realm of things that I would have to like pay attention to and engage with. I don't go to as many car meets as Gerard does. And if I do, I don't even like bat an eye at a Mazda 3. I just think it's lost. Like it doesn't even like, it's not even a blip on my radar. But a G35 was cool in my eyes at one point. It's just this like, it's just fallen far from great.
Disappointed you so many disappointing ones.
So yeah, so you don't like the Mazda 3 because of everything that it's always has been. But I don't like the G35 for everything it's become, and it's rubbed in my face every time I see it. So then I'm like, you sons of bitches.
I think your mind's going to be changed like relatively soon, because they're definitely on the come up. Like all the sedans that are getting built, like they're definitely like finally realizing, like, you know, you get some like S13 drift guys building G35s, and they're going to look pretty cool versus like the ones that you've seen that are like, you know, super terrible.
Right. I was driving by in your neighborhood 2 days ago, Gerard, and I saw a terrible G35 coupe, and I was mad.
Yeah, but is that a drift guy? Probably not.
I don't know. It had a weird spoiler on it, and the wheels didn't fit properly. And then I think it actually had your Mazda 3 like fender flares on it, like, but they didn't cut anything. They just added a little bit. Yeah, and I was like,
there's a couple of those in the Coquitlam area.
Really?
And
yeah.
But no, I was in
one. There's a black one.
I was in like Surrey. I was driving through Surrey / Langley and saw that, and I was like, And I was actually Jody and I were driving, and we were by Alex, and I was like, well, Alex lives somewhere over here. And then Gerard lives somewhere over there, I think. And then this G35 showed up, and I was like, "Fuck that thing." But I guess Mazda 3s will be on the watch list now. I love that we got that much out of that question.
But you know what's funny? Okay, the reason John Dawson asked you about Mazda 3 is because John Dawson used to have a Mazda 3. But his Mazda 3 was actually kind of sick, like looking. Like it definitely, I would probably say would be the one, because I remember was it Stratinsky that bought it or whatever? Because when it was at Neil's, I was like, yo, like this thing's kind of sick. Like had the big wing, it was like pretty low. And I think it was on like 19s or something. And I was like, fuck, this is like pretty respectable for a Mazda 3. And it didn't look like crap. I think it was all one color and like had some unique parts, like kind of sick, you know?
Right.
But that's probably why he was like,
when I think of Mazda 3s, I just think of like that starter pack where it's just like a pack of smokes and like a Cookie Monster hat and like gauged ears and then modified Mazda 3 or something. You know what I mean? Like
oh, gauged ears.
Like
doesn't John Dawson have gauged ears?
He does have pretty gauged ears for sure.
Yeah. But I do think that we kind of use Mazda 3s. If you listen to enough episodes, and not even enough that maybe I'd pick up on, but I think we toss it out there like occasionally, like, and then it's just a Mazda 3, and it's like gets shit on a bit.
The other last point as to why I think Mazda 3s are not as cool as they could be is because of the Mazda 5. The Mazda 5 is literally the same car, but it's kind of sicker because it has sliding doors and like it's a little bit van-ish. It's kind of a weird anomaly vehicle where it's like small, but it's like a van. And it's like, to me, I would just way rather have a 5 than a 3.
Oh, you mean the guy that like loves wagons and
Yeah, I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like way more.
Cool.
Honestly,
of course,
it is super cool, and I was kind of into them until you got that one, and you're like, yeah, it's kind of a lemon. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I would still like if my mom gave it to me, I'd be like, yeah, sick. Like, I'll just dump it on some like cool wheels and just drive it. Like, but yeah, like I'd way rather have a 5 than a 3.
Then you'd have like a baker's dozen of cars to drive around.
Could be a shop car.
Yeah, it could be a shop car. Yeah, that would maybe make more sense than the Camry, I guess. What a fun time we had on a joke question. He also said what to look for when you're buying like a JDM car. So I would imagine he means like importing a right-hand drive. So what do you look for? That's actually a pretty good question. Like, how do you go about that?
I mean,
price. Literally, Gerard.
Yeah, I mean, depends what you're looking for.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Me,
I mean,
normally also always price.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so that's true because I've definitely imported a bunch and like flipped a few and this and that. So if I'm looking for something obviously to flip, you look for value. You look for like a good price, but it has to have like certain things that are going to cost you a lot of money here to like do. Like when I bought the Prado, for example, it had exhaust. It had like, you know, like the color I wanted. It had like it was a 5-seater, not a 7-seater, and it had wheels, and it had, you know, it just has the things that like you're not going to buy wheels to put on a car that you're flipping because it costs you a lot of money, right? Like regardless of what the wheels are, you just shine them up, and you know it's cool. But for my personal
cars, different wheels on that car to sell it.
Did I on the Prado? No. I just shined up the stock. I bought tires for it. But yeah, I just lifted tires, kept the same wheels, but I spaced them.
That's what it was.
Spaced them because they were a bit hurting. Least amount of money in, most amount of money out. That's basically if you're flipping a car and something that's obviously desirable. Like don't buy some weird fucking obscure car that nobody's going to want to buy.
I kind of assume that the question pertains more to like you're trying to buy the car you want to buy. Sometimes, like Gerard said, you're gonna save money by getting the car that already has the mods, but you don't know the mods. You don't know those coils. You don't know how many kilometers are on those coils. Like you don't know that it's been leaking forever. Like, you know, you don't know that all the wiring on all of those gauges you see is wrong. Like you know, like
I got one. You don't know that the transmission that comes in the car is a W58 and not an R154.
Yes. And that is honestly a huge one that Kevin said. Like we 100,000% prefer absolutely stock cars. I don't give a shit if it has wheels. I definitely don't want any wide body or anything because you know it's going to be garbage. Like what Kevin said, everything that you're looking at in those photos on a modded car is either going to get thrown out or is totally fucked and wrong.
I don't know anyone that got a car that came over from Japan, like especially like on Teen. Is that how you say it?
Teen
coilovers that weren't blown like coilovers. I've never met anyone that's like, hey, my coilovers are in like perfect working condition. Imagine that. They're always like, they're completely gone. They're just like blown out. Would you ever buy an R grade car?
All my cars are R grade.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah. Okay. I definitely don't give a shit about 3.5 or any of that stuff. Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it's price, man. Like the Blit was $110, you know? And I mean, it had the stuff I wanted, the aero, the wheels, the interior I wanted, had a sunroof, non-Navi, you know, it already came with the, like, what's that thing called, Kevin? The adapter, CarMate? No, not CarMate.
Beat Sonic.
Beat Sonic. It already came with that thing. I mean, that's not much. It's still $300 to put a deck in the car. Like it came with all that stuff, but it was completely stock. But it was also a complete piece of shit. So
you also had the parts going into it.
Kevin just bought a car. Ask him. He literally just bought a car.
I already know the running theme that both of you have is cheapest car with like stock aero, like OEM. Plus aero. It's like, give me the cheapest car with stock aero.
Well, that way when you slam it, it already looks good, and it didn't. You know, like when I was getting the insurance today, the guy was just like, "This is what this car costs," and I'm like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Oh man, like, do you guys have any cars for sale?" Like,
yeah, all of them. Yeah,
but that is the other side of it, though. When you're at your guys' level of like know-how and preparedness and ready to do that work, that makes sense. Like your Blit was cheap, but the engine just came out of it, right? You had a 1J that was going in it. Like
correct. But I mean,
swap.
like,
and then you build the parts to be like, now I'm going to put a 6-speed in it. Like that is a different thing, right? Like,
I mean,
so I'm the opposite, I think.
But I mean, like, I don't know.
Your cars are great.
Okay, like,
your cars are great.
Sit there and do the math. Be like, I'm gonna spreadsheet this all out and like buy a JZX 100. And are you gonna buy a factory manual one, or are you gonna buy the JZ Auto one and put the 6-speed in? Because in the end, it's still going to be cheaper. Like, even
cheaper
buying it outright,
and arguably better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're going for an all original car, there's nothing you could do to buy the original stock one, but most people aren't.
I guess this has changed quite a bit. Well, maybe not for you guys, but for me now, yeah. But like when I bought the Aristo, it was like, that was, to me, I did look at it as like, okay, it has wheels, it has like a kit or like aero or a lip kit on it, suspension, and it's just like, it was coming manual. So it's like, yeah, I'm just going to get that. Like, and then I don't have to worry about figuring out how to do a manual swap on the car. And I got that car before you guys had the manual kit anyway, right? Like, So anytime I talk to someone, it's like, how do you manual swap an Aristo? They're like, oh, it's really hard. You don't want to do it. And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. So when that came up, I was like, yeah, I'll just buy that.
Yeah. Your car has a bunch of stuff that would be impossible to get here. Like you're going to ship that hood or a full body kit over here.
Well, the hood I got here, but yeah.
Oh, really?
I bought the hood off Justin Wallace.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Because he got it from Dimoff for like $200, and then I bought it off him. Yeah. So when I looked at those cars, there was a point where it was kind of like there was a checklist of like the things that I knew I was going to do, or like if they had already crossed it off.
Did you get the coilovers here, or did they come on the car?
Came on the car. So the coilovers came on.
You're the example.
Yeah, the version of the car that you hate the most, you told me the other day. I just like, Gerard looked at an old picture of my car and was like, no wonder I didn't care about this car. It was awful.
Well, what did it have before the Walds though? Because like we talked about this on a podcast.
Had Duchelettes.
I tried to go back and find.
But it's the Wald D23s, isn't it? The Duchelette, isn't that a Wald wheel?
I like those.
Oh, okay,
wheels.
sorry.
But I don't like them on that car.
Yeah, they weren't like a cool size, but it had those, the D23, Duchelette, whatever. And so it came on the Wald wheels, a Wald kit, the Kaz front grille, or Kaz or whatever front grille. And then it had all like the chrome bits that were, and Gerard doesn't like that. He doesn't like the chrome handles and the chrome pillars and the
grill and the pillars just like killed it. It was like that's when you're trying to be like VIP, but it's like, no, man. That's like,
I didn't do that.
I know. I'm just saying.
But I also didn't mind it at the time.
But then your car looks so much better now.
I am the opposite of you guys. When I look at importing a car, I would probably want the checklist to have a lot of the things on it.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. That's like sort of like buying the Type R, right? Like you buy the car that you want because it has the wheels, it has the aero, it has the, but like the aftermarket stuff, right? So you're always taking a chance. Like usually with wheels, it's fine because you can either sell them or trade them or use them or whatever, right? Like wheels are wheels, whatever. Suspension, you're probably going to throw in the garbage, right? The body kit, it's probably good if you can see in the photo that like it's not destroyed or whatever. But yeah, like if it's got like engine mods or like, like even your car, for example, it's 5-speed swapped, sweet W58. You know what I mean? Like you're probably not like you're probably gonna have to throw it in the garbage, but like you may still have to spend money on an R154 or a CD or whatever. But I mean, I guess it's cool because you get to enjoy the car as a 5-speed already. So half the work is sort of done. Definitely requires some amount of work still. But yeah, sometimes it's good to start from here versus here and then end up at the same place if you're not like us where like you can literally do all the work and you have all the stuff. Like
when he asked that, I also had my other thought. When I got my Celsior, I bought it from a dude in Edmonton. I put myself in a weird position. Like I drove up there to look at that car, and so it was kind of like
you're buying it, right? And like the roof was like the clear was kind of peeling on the roof at the time, and I was like when I was talking about that car, I said like, it was actually like kind of whack. Like there's a few photos where it looks like kind of cool-ish, but then like I
it's like I started doing things to it and then just didn't care about it anymore.
Mhm.
And I think it was because it started at such a low level car. Also, I didn't import it. I bought it from a dude. So that's on me. But it's like it started at such a low level car that when I started doing things to it, I kind of was like, man, I could throw a ton of money at this thing and it still would never be a cool car.
Mhm.
You know, like how much money am I going to spend on a UCF 11 and then be like, oh, fuck, cool. I spent all this money on, you know, like
Yeah.
I still spent a ton of money on it. And only like, I think I like, it was all like, I might as well just put that money out on the front lawn and burned it under the pile. Because it was
Yo,
like
this
such a
entire
fucking-
time, I always thought you had a UCF 30.
No, it was like an 11.
11 or
That's-
a 20, early 20.
I'm pretty sure it was an 11.
So
I
like
checked the
it,
chassis code.
Which is a 10 that has air ride.
Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. So you had a UCF 10. Oh, yeah, you definitely burnt that money.
Yeah, it was fucking dumb. Like, I
So
Don't
yeah,
know
one thing
why
I'll
I
say
did
is
that.
now when you're looking for a car, it's like the features that you can't do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you could find the car in the color you want so that you don't have to
Yeah.
paint the engine bay
Yes.
and paint the door jambs, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
If you want a sunroof, like there's no goddamn way you're ever adding a sunroof. So if you want that sunroof, you better find that car that has that sunroof.
Yeah.
But like if you wanted a different color interior, you can do that. That's a
Yeah.
lot of work, but it can be done, you know? Like,
For
oh,
sure.
it comes with a shitty motor or it's automatic. Those are things that can definitely be done.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Exactly.
sounds a lot like Kevin's crown is what we're talking about right now.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I guess another couple of good examples is I bought the Verosas. So like my first Verosa is like, what was the criteria? It's a JZX turbo, and it was cheap. Like it was a bit of a piece of shit, but it was cheap, and I knew the value in having a JZ drivetrain and having a JZX chassis. So I bought it. That car was very cheap. And then the next Verosa I bought was for the Aero for the first Verosa. And I was like, okay, so the next Verosa I buy has to be a nice enough Verosa that I can sell it to somebody, not at a loss. So like, you know, I bought it because it had Aero, because it had wheels, which I promptly flipped or took off and sold the car for more money. But like, that's two different criteria, right? Like one was like the value of like, you know, JZ, JZX, blah, blah. The other one was like, the only criteria was like, it was good condition and it had Aero.
It was the same color.
Same color, had Aero. And like, I was like, oh, it has wheels bonus. I could like sell those. And
You still got that arrow.
still have that Aero. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm the opposite of what Kevin said. It's like I just think like better to get the car with the engine I want in it. But that's because I have no desire or probably even the know-how to like want to swap an engine into a car. Like,
And maybe that's it. Maybe if you were like a professional body dude, you'd be like, yo, I could put a sunroof in and like I
Yeah.
could paint the entire car, like jams and engine bay, no problem. So
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
easiest for me to do.
yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like I like doing fucking engine swaps. I don't like if I could get the car, like when I bought that Verosa, I was like, okay, the body's rough. The interior's mint, the engine bay's mint. It's pretty high K. I don't really care because the JZs are pretty whatever. And I bought that Verosa as my car. It's just like after a year and a half driving it and shit kicking it, it was even worse. And I was like, well, this thing's either going to turn into a total drift, basically missile because it was already smashed up and like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Or I can kind of flip it and then, you know, build a Blit because I've always wanted a Blit. But like, yeah, if I could have, instead of all that, just bought the 1JZ Blit for a decent price, hands down, I would have fucking preferred to do that. Like the amount of work just went into like the engine swap and figuring out all the bullshit after it. Like,
Right.
it's
kind
not
of-
worth it.
Kind of sounds like waiting in line for gas.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like buy the car with the engine that you'll swap. It's like
Yeah.
you'll wait in line to save that extra money, but it's like, yeah.
But I mean, it was kind of two different cars.
No,
and, you know
no,
what
I know.
mean?
I'm
But, like,
joking, I'm
but yeah, like if in the end I wanted a turbo Blit, like, I mean, that's the thing with us too.
So
I
if you were
guarantee
explaining this to a white collar guy, that's exactly what he would have been like. He would have been like,
Yeah.
so
why didn't you
like,
just
what-
buy the car you wanted? Exactly.
Yeah, why did and it's like, well, no, because I could do it for way cheaper. It's like, yeah, but
But
time is money. Is a wise
100%.
man once told me that like their time is worth money and they don't have time to wait in line for gas.
The thing with what we do though is like not all the time. A lot of the time it's still learning. So like if we do something that we've never done before, then we know and we can sort of pass that on to our customers, right? Like not that like that's a common swap, but I've definitely been asked a lot about that engine swap. Like, and now like, you know, Tyson has, you know, wiring schematics and shit for it. And he's selling that. Like people are, you know, because that's a pretty common car is a 1G Barossa or 110 or whatever. And then, you know, but anyways,
And
I was going to say
like more importantly, it's like, you know, we filmed that whole CD009 installation guide
exactly
on that video.
I mean, we could have done that on any Jay-Z car though. The car could have came Jay-Z.
Yeah.
But I think what I was going to say though, that's more important than all that crap is that I think Kevin and I are the same, that like, I don't know if we care about the actual car that much. We just care about and the like whatever criteria of the car. Like Kevin's driving a fucking Crown. Like I don't know if like a Crown was his first choice, you know, or whatever, but like it fits the bill. It's got a Jay-Z. It's fucking cheap. It like can look fucking sick. So like there's your car. You know what I mean? It's like if you really wanted a JZX, you probably have a JZX. But like I don't think that's the thing. It's like we see the value in different ways than normal people. Like normal people, they want a chaser. That's what they're going to buy.
Yeah.
They want numbers matching. I had a thought, like my thing when I had the 180 and when I was buying the 180, people were like, a lot of people would be like, well, why are you buying a 180? In hindsight, maybe I should have bought an S13 Sylvia, but I bought a 180 because I was just like everyone else. You know, like I could buy a 240 and then I'd have to buy an SR20 and then be in Regina and try to find someone to do this engine swap or me do it myself and pull my hair out for probably like a year and a half trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and my answer always was, it was like, or I could just get it factory with the engine in it that I want. Like,
180s is sick though.
Yeah, they are. Like 180s are sick. But then I was under the misconception that everyone else was going to be like, why would you get a 180 when you can get a Sylvia? And I thought I was going to be like a little bit different. And then I wasn't different because everyone's like, yeah, fuck, let's all get 180s. And nobody got S13 Sylvias. There was like 3 of them in Regina.
I much prefer the Sylvia myself, but
yeah, now like looking back, like I'm like, oh shit, like a 2-tone S13 Sylvia would have been dope. So that was my thing. It was like, who does a better engine swap than the people that just put it in originally? And was like,
yeah, and I mean that's like a perfect example. Like after doing this like blit stuff and like doing the swap, it's like literally I've been doing fucking engine swaps for fucking 20 years, man. Like I'm not stupid, you know what I mean? Like I know my way around some wiring, and I know, you know what I mean? But like everyone's like, oh yeah, it's just do the swap. It's easy. Just do this, just do that. And it's like, man, like if the factory puts the engine in that car, that's how you want it. Like you could fucking say the swap's perfect. You can say it's no big deal. You could say you slapped it and you could do it. Man, that swap ain't perfect. There's definitely nuances between.
And honestly, it's super easy to slap a motor in a race car where it just needs to run at wide open throttle.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
to like have a street car where everything still works. It's like you know, you have idle control. You have if your fans coming on.
Yeah,
and
like I had no fans. I still don't have AC. Like fucking sick. Like so. Like now I have to like put a standalone in and hopefully get AC back after putting a standalone. That makes no sense. But and then you could have bought a module. You could buy a module for the AT. You could buy a module for the AC. You could fucking buy a couple of modules for the fans. And it's like, or you could just bought the goddamn car that had all that shit to start with.
And then it just worked. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, so like the fuse box is different. The fucking relay configurations are all different. The ABS is different. Like literally the fucking whole car is different. And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's a few advantages to my car over that. Like it's probably 100 pounds lighter, maybe. Like now I delete ABS, I guess. Cool. You know what I mean? Like you could have just bought the car that had the JZ and the ABS and the fans and all the shit.
I'm not mad at my Aristo for having an AC in it.
Yeah, exactly.
There, you know, like that's good. I even like, so Kevin's new Crown, the GRS 180.
Yeah, the 18 Crown. Yeah.
18 Crown. It's like, I think that's a really cool car. And I think it's cool that, you know, I also get that I don't think that engine's going to stay in that car forever. Maybe it will. I don't know how Kevin lives his life.
Kevin doesn't even know how Kevin lives his life.
but it's like if I was looking at that, I was like, I would probably just get the 3.5 because like you have an extra 1J and you have a K series engine, so you kind of have like a choice. I don't have either of those. And even if I did, I wouldn't be like, okay, so now I live in my condo and I need to like engine swap this Crown to be like this rad engine. And then what you've already said, do all like the nuances and figure out everything to make sure it's like, or I could just have like a 3.5 liter V6 that makes like 300 and some horsepower.
Yeah.
Probably be like,
and that's the thing too, is the newer the car, the more shit there is. Like, that's why, like, for me, that 18 Crown,
totally
game over. Like, you're putting a JZ in that thing's a race car. I mean,
that's how I agree. That's what I think too. It's like if I'm putting either any motor that didn't come in that car, it's becoming a race car because now nothing is going to work.
Yeah, right. And like that car too, like same thing. Probably the engine ECU is connected to the HVAC, and like the HVAC's connected to the fucking gauges, and the gauges are connected to the fucking window switches, and like. Yeah, like you change the engine, nothing's gonna work. Or like if you want it to work, you're gonna spend a fucking ton of time trying to figure out like the hieroglyphic fucking wiring diagrams. Like, is that worth it? Like, not really. Like you said, just buy the 3.5 if that's what you wanted.
Yeah.
But price. So why'd you buy the 2.5, Kevin?
Because I was the cheapest 18 Crown with factory aero.
Exactly.
Which I love. Well, that's my favorite thing.
And for us, the development of that, like the reason for buying that car, the engine is irrelevant.
Yeah. It's like I need the new suspension design, and it was half the price of buying like the cheapest IS 250 here. Seems like a no-brainer.
Also, factory aero is not a thing that I ever really considered until we started doing this podcast.
But the factory Aristo aero is super sick. The super rare factory Aristo aero.
Yeah,
like, that's probably one of the best aero kits for that car.
I'm saying I just never thought about it until
like 180 SX Type X aero. Really?
Well, no. I did
that's
that.
Highly desirable.
No, that I did. That I for sure did.
Right?
But
You're
I
not
never
buying a 180 with no aero.
But I guess I never really thought of like buying the OEM like plus ish look.
I feel like all the newer Toyotas, they're like the only ones that kind of look good. Like like the Blit without the lip kit doesn't look good. Like the 18 Crown without the lip kit doesn't look good. Like 17 Crown without the like front lip doesn't even like, they don't. You need them.
Yeah.
Younger me always was like, well, I'm just gonna like put a body kit on it. I'm gonna say body kit because I'm trying to make body kits big thing again. No, yeah, I'm always like back. I was always like, well, I'm gonna switch the front bumper anyway. So what does that matter, right? Like I'm gonna put something.
But that's the Type R scenario. It's like, so now you're going to get a car that has no aero and you're going to have to spend all the money for the new shit. Whereas if you had the car with the aero, you would simply sell the aero and the bumper to fund the new aero that you actually like.
And this makes me sound dumb and whatever. It just never even crossed my mind for a long time that a lot of that stuff was desirable. I knew that the 180, like the kooky Type X, like I knew that shit was desirable, but I also knew that it was like I had a 91 and that wouldn't be in the realm of anything like I could get on a car for another like however long it took for them to switch over to the kooky like Type X kit on that car. So I ran like a knockoff kooky bumper on my car before I sold it, and I hated it because it wasn't the right look for that car at that time. But now I get it. But like at the time, all I'm saying is like if everything was coming off the car and you were buying like new aero, you were getting new side skirts, you were getting a new bumper. Like even when I cracked my walled front lip on my Aristo, I was like, well, I guess maybe I should just get a whole new bumper. And then I just got it fixed instead because I was like, I don't need a whole new front bumper.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too with all those. Yeah, like for example, the Verosa. Like when I bought the Turbo JZ Verosa, like it had no aero. I was like really hard pressed to buy it simply because it didn't have the aero. I was like, it's really cheap, like this and that. But I was just like, man, like I gotta drive that thing. Like it's fucking ugly. Like a stock unaeroed Verosa is not really a great looking car.
It's pretty crazy for sure.
So
you were going to change. You were gonna like the Aristo before you crashed it was going to be like full not OEM stuff, right? It was going to be like you were going to do. Was it a BN kit?
Yeah, it was BN, full BN, which is honestly like crazy because my car was actually low and like the kit literally was on the ground. And I mean, like, that's all great for the internet and like looks cool and stuff, but like it's a fucking pain in the ass to drive, man. Like even when I drove your car, I'm like, man, this thing scrapes like everywhere. And it's like,
Yeah, your car does scrape a lot.
it's like fiberglass. So it's like scraping fiberglass is like you're just watching dollar signs and fucking hours go by because like you're having to redo that kit. And it's like with the factory aero, it's like you can scrape that shit all day long. Maybe not all day, but like at least half the day. And it's just like it doesn't matter. Because it's ABS and it just like, I mean, it definitely will break. It definitely will wear through, but it's way more resilient.
Now having this conversation, totally understand your point. But when I was buying a car, I was never put off by the, oh shit, there's all this extra like shit on it that like, it was kind of just like a checklist of if it had wheels. So like when I got the Aristo, it had wheels and I was like, well, it has wheels. I don't have to worry about those for a bit. And then when I do worry about them, like, I can either sell those or rebuild them or do whatever, which is what I did.
When I bought the Verosa that had no aero, so then I was like, okay, I need to get the aero now. So I'm like on YJ. Like the aero itself is not that expensive, but to ship the fucking aero, like $700 or $800.
Right.
So then, yeah, like it was cheaper to buy a whole car with the aero, flip the car and keep the aero. You know what I mean? Than to buy the aero. And I mean, for example, Jake just bought that rear lip and had to cut it into 3 pieces in order just to get the fucking thing here. Because for some reason his car had the factory aero except for the rear lip. And it was $700 to ship just the rear lip.
It kind of seemed though with like, and maybe, I don't know what it's like for the Verosa, but definitely having an S chassis and then even the Aristo, like a JZS, it's the aftermarket support specifically in body parts in North America, but like body parts for that car there's a lot out there, right? Like, so you're not, it was never like I necessarily had to go to Japan. There would have been someone here that would have had like something that would have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I did with my car. It was like aim gain side skirts and whatever that front lip was, admiration or something. And it's like, I guess it was good enough. That was the look I had. I wasn't spending $3,000 to buy. And I mean, honestly, even for the Aristos, there weren't even that much cool aero kits to start with. Like when I was going to put aero on the car, I'm like, what am I going to get? Like 326 power or I don't even know. Like BN. Basically, it's like either BN or 326. Like that's the only choices.
What's the other one that everybody gets?
Isn't there like a version select?
Yeah, there's a version select. And then
that's fucking terrible.
Isn't there that Kazuma front bumper or whatever?
Yeah, or Vertex. Vertex made Vertex. But I mean, how many? That's the thing is when you see Aristos,
Black
like
Pearl, dog.
Well, Vertex is like the most popular one.
That's what I mean. You see a car, especially if it's a drift Aristo, it's gonna have Vertex. And I mean, like Vertex can look good, sure, but it's like it's not like a look that's new or like exciting. I was like, well, if I had the wide body with the 326 kit, that would be pretty wild. But the 326 kit's pretty fucking wild.
Yeah. You gotta have the cojones to pull that off. There's also the Supermade kit, but nobody.
No, thank you. Not
for Gerard.
No. I was like, I'll just take like an S chassis kit and like make that fit. But like, dude, it's so much work, man. It's like I'd almost just rather buy a car that you could buy aero for. Like, it's just I don't. Making body kits is a lot of work.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would like it feels, but everything feels like a lot of work to some degree.
Yeah, so let's just go buy an M4. Right? Like it has carbon fiber splitters, carbon fiber mirrors, carbon fiber spoiler, carbon fiber brakes. Like
it is funny because it is like when you're young, like Kevin said in that one episode, you're sitting there laughing at the dude for spending all that money on the car. Right. And now the older I get, the more and more I look at those cars or any of those cars. And even like Alex said, he's like, you know what? I'm starting to come around to Porsches. And I was like, yeah, of course you are. Because like that car is built to be driven. Like you get in that car and you're meant to enjoy it. It's not like, man, this car will be really kind of cool once I do suspension, wheels, all my bushings, and then like a front mount intercooler and exhaust and downpipe, and then swap it to a standalone. And then I got to get it tuned, and then Yeah, it's like
Exactly.
now my car is really great to drive, and it's like, yeah, that guy
And-
just bought a Porsche, and it's fun to drive right out of the box.
And at the end of all that, you go and drive the Porsche, and you're like, what the fuck? How can the Porsche be so much better than my like everything under the sun done to it car? Like literally everything's done to it, but the stock Porsche is still better. The stock BMW is still better. Like
it's because the best shop in the world that knows the most about that car is the one that built that car, the factory.
Exactly.
That's the same point as like,
yeah,
I wanted the 180 that came factory with an SR because I didn't want someone else's wiring headaches or like,
and
why
it's
is
like
that bolt missing? Or
can you imagine how many fucking hours of R&D the current 911 has? Like the culmination of hours from all of the 911s before it, it's probably billions of hours. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So those motherfuckers know 911s. Those guys know suspension. They know handling. They know what it's supposed to and what they want it to feel like. Like you're not fucking reinventing that wheel, man. Not a chance.
I mean, they're not on Facebook asking people what type of oil to put in their car. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it is. I do think that was probably one of the strongest points I've heard on this podcast was Kevin's bit about that. It was like, you're right. Like, fuck, was I dumb when I was younger? Well, my car could be faster if I put that much money into a car. And it's like, yeah, but you probably won't put that much money into a car.
Yeah.
But then you will.
And then you will. And
you'll realize.
Yeah. And it might be as fast on some days when it's all running properly and shit isn't breaking. And
I mean, that's the thing is people don't realize that it actually does take like not a significant amount of money, but like almost a ludicrous amount of money to build a car that is actually as good as you think you want it to be.
Well,
like,
I believe we covered this on our Mo Money episode, and it was $20,000 to $40,000
at the minimum. Yeah. Could you imagine an Aristo that actually could compete with a current M4? Like, how much would that cost to build? Fucking $100,000 easily.
Yeah,
like $100,000. You might as well just buy the fucking M4.
That's exactly I think all we're learning is that our hobby is kind of dumb.
I mean, it's for the passion, bro. It's for the passion.
It is, but it's like
I love, like changing plug wires and like, when like the clips break on the coil plugs, and just really satisfying to like change those. And when
but imagine you spend $100,000 on a car and you're dealing with the same shit. You're like, this goddamn same bolt here and the rear lower control arm just breaks every time. Like,
I mean,
it's still a mechanical thing, and it's a fucking German mechanical thing. So
right.
So
what if we just all spent a bunch of money on high-end Japanese cars, Brad?
Well, guess what? The only manufacturer that you're going to spend money on to compete with any of those cars is fucking Nissan.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, maybe a Honda NSX, maybe, but like, what the fuck else are you going to buy? Name a Toyota.
The Z4.
Oh, the Supra.
Form.
I mean, okay, yeah, I guess that's one.
But it is German. That is a German.
It is a
car.
BMW. So there you go.
Like that's why I thought it was a trick question, and that's why I didn't say it. Do I like those cars? A ton. Like every time I see a new Supra now, I'm like, oh shit, I think it's a good looking car.
They're surprisingly not that popular. Hey, like I've only seen like 4 or 5. Like
I'm seeing more and more of them now, but.
Weird.
What we talked about earlier, tax brackets,
I feel like there's a week ago, or not a week ago, but there was a week in the last month where I saw 4 in that week, and 2 were in the same day, and they were both yellow, but they were completely different cars or just driven by extremely different people.
Two of them were yellow?
I've seen a yellow one too. A lot of a yellow one, and I've seen a black one.
I saw a black one
yellow
the minute it came out.
Yeah, I don't think I would drive the yellow one, but I think it does what it's meant to do. Like you see the yellow car, and
you definitely notice that.
Notice that car, and I mean it's not lime green either, right? So it's a big birdmobile. You can handle that. I saw a black one outside of a movie theater, and like I went and like looked at it like close up because I've never really looked at those cars because
they're sick,
and they are pretty like sick. And I've said like, man, maybe like one day that's something that I would maybe like to own, but who knows? Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll go the way of the G35. I don't know. You are right. Probably the only Japanese car company that's making something that would compete with any of those is Nissan.
You know, I heard that the 400R or whatever the 400Z, sorry, is the last time they're ever going to use that engine. I.e., that's probably the last time, apparently, that they're going to put a
petrol,
like a gas engine.
But I mean that'll probably run out for that 4 years, or the 400Z will probably run for like 10 years. No, I mean, how long?
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, but like they're not going to like develop they're no longer developing like a new engine.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Like for that, they'll put something in a Sentra, won't they? Or
probably, yeah.
Or like what are other like Nissan, like a Versa,
Altima,
an Altima,
Maxima.
Do they still make the Maxima?
I think so. And I mean, they also make like 15,000 different CUV, SUV fucking combos.
Yeah. Everybody in their fucking crossovers.
It's so weird. There's like the Juke and the Rogue and the Qashqai and there's some new one again. And I'm like, man, like, what is happening?
That is a lot to keep up with. Qashqai, hey? Sounds like a granola that you would buy.
Well, the Qashqai is, I think, phased out by like this new one. That like, but I mean, the cool thing about Nissan is they're actually very popular in like weird like European markets and stuff.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff is Euro. Like for example, one cool example is that Q50 or Q60 in Europe. It comes as a manual diesel, so you can basically just buy all the manual pedals, handbrake, center console, and everything from Europe to manual swap a Q60 or Q50.
How far off are we from that becoming a thing that's more and more like seen more and more?
What?
People manual swapping Q60s. Does that happen?
Honestly, man, like I would almost probably bet that that's probably one of my next cars, like to get rid of all the Toyota stuff. I mean, honestly, the Blitz kind of brought me back a little bit just because it's a 1JZ and I really just absolutely love 1Js. But as far as the car itself goes, it's not a great car. It's a car. But like, yeah, like a Q60, they're coming down in price. And I mean, we can get one from ICBC for not a lot of money, like a Q60 Type S or Q60S or whatever. And then, yeah, it's basically just like a 350Z trans and a few other parts. And you have a 400 horsepower twin turbo V6, at least 400 horsepower twin turbo V6 like sedan.
Whew. Well, there you go.
What's not to love?
That's what you should be looking for when you buy a car from Japan.
There you go.
A Q60. I can't think of anything else. What you should. I mean, I guess we sit.
Don't buy anything from, what is it, Hokkaido? Don't buy anything from the north.
Oh,
yeah.
It's gonna be rusted as fuck.
Noted.
Don't buy anything that's freshly painted, right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's a warning sign.
What did you get that was freshly painted?
I got a Dyna that like looked so sick, and then I got it, and I was like, I'd never seen a more rusty vehicle. Like literally never seen a more rusty vehicle.
It was unbelievable. like shit was falling off. Like you step on the step, and it just broke. Like it just fucking broke right off. Yeah.
Are there sites that you'd recommend going to buy stuff, or is that like a secret that you don't want?
No, it's not a secret at all. And Gerard is the cheapest of cheap, man. Like I buy B forward cars. Like I sift through all the shit. Like it's basically Value Village for cars. And like I'm always stoked to find like a deal, you know. Like
dude, that's hilarious. That's hilarious description.
Yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you're looking for a car to buy, like if you have a specific car that you want to buy, like you're probably not going to buy it on there. You're going to like look through auction places. There's numerous auction places, but yeah, for me, it's an excitement thing. Like B4 is basically, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Once in a while, you find something good. But I've managed to find a bunch of good ones. So
a lot of needles in that haystack. Yeah, what would be a reputable site then that you would go to?
Oh, it's reputable.
Oh no, sorry, that's not the right word.
What is any of the auction houses, man? I mean, what are some? I don't even know what they're called anymore.
I feel like with the auction house, then you kind of have to know what you're doing too. You know?
Yeah.
Like you have to know how to read the auction sheet. You have to like.
Yeah. You have to sign up. You have to have a membership to the auction sheet or the auction house.
Yeah, some of them you have to like put a tiny down payment if you want to be able to view some cars as well. the other thing about the auctions that's so annoying is it's like, all right, no cars today. Well, better look tomorrow. And you go through
Yeah.
your five different auction houses every day, searching the same parameters, trying to find that one car that meets all your needs. And like, I mean, when you're looking for that one car, like it is, you got to do what you got to do. But
And then a lot of times too, like the auction houses, they have the same cars. So it's like you look at 5 auction houses and you're looking at like 3 of the same fucking cars. And what I kind of hate about auction houses is they will most often give you very minimal photos. So you get a front shot, like a rear shot, the photo of the auction sheet, and that's the bare minimum. But like maybe they'll have 5 or 6 photos, whereas like before they have like 30 photos or 20 photos. But like,
and they have the car there. It's already there. Like,
yeah.
So what is B4 then? Is it just like a giant
it's like
lot?
Odessa for Japan.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Like they just buy everybody's car.
Yeah.
And
they have good cars. They have bad cars.
Yeah.
But a lot of, I mean, primarily before, I think lately it's kind of different. They have all the auction cars on there now too. But a lot of the cars were kind of like shitty, like, or like not shitty, but like, I don't even know, man. Yeah, it's just like a weird mishmash of cars, and you find some good ones, but there's a lot of shit.
I bought my Aristo from Brave Auto.
Yeah.
So like that is essentially isn't that like you pay a...
But Brave's a dealership. Like,
Yeah.
isn't Brave like you must have paid a decent amount of money.
Nah, well, I mean, I paid all said and done. It was like $9,000.
Holy shit, that's cheap.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, like it was a weird thing. Maybe it was like a bit more, but like at that time though, guys were probably paying $7,000 for an auto Aristo. Like, not Gerard, but like regular people were paying like $6,000 or $7,000 for an auto.
Yeah.
It was like,
and you got wheels and arrow and a manual.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I was like, well, this is fucking great. But
for reference, my Aristo V300 Vertex, 100,000 kilometers, white, had the blue Aztec interior, but with Clasio leather interior, whatever covers, landed was $2,800, I think.
Yeah.
So it was fucking dirt.
Wow.
This is also whatever 6 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's a while ago.
Yeah, it was 2014 when we got that car. When did you get your car? 2017?
No, I've had that car for 8 years.
Yeah, so basically around the same time.
2013, yeah.
Yeah, I had it slightly. I remember I had it
slightly
longer before.
Yeah, he's had it longer than I had mine.
Because I remember I was like, I was super stoked. I was like, man, I'm probably gonna have like one of the only manual Aristos wherever I am. Because like, how many of those exist? And then
yeah, exactly.
Then I saw Gerard. I didn't know you at the time either, and I saw like Gerard from SerialNine has purchased an Aristo, and I was like, well, fuck me. That's all I kind of thought. I was like, and then it took you a while, so I was always like, I'd see photos of your car, and I'd be like, oh, that's really cool. Still not a manual.
Yeah.
And then
it was auto for a long time.
Yeah. And then when it became a manual, I was like, all right, well, I'm fucked. Like it was kind of like, well, time for me to hit the dusty trail.
Yeah, I don't got a leg to stand on anymore.
Yeah. That was always the one thing. I was like, well, mine's manual.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because when I bought that car, I still had the V160 and everything from the Cressida. So I fully was like, yeah, it's going to be a V160. Like totally no problem. But like, to do the actual manual swap on that car was no small task. Like pedal from here, custom make that, like brake booster from here. Like, yeah, it's just so much fucking work. And then, finally it was done with a V160 and I was like, that's all you got? I was like, fuck. Didn't know about the emulator back then. But yeah, it was very underwhelming.
Yeah, I guess end of the day, buying a car from Japan is pretty much going to be whatever you look for when you buy a car locally. You're just going to do it with a little bit more faith, I think, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, you can pay people over there. Like you can, like if you have a reputable dude, like when I bought the Stagia back in the day, I had a buddy / person who did this sort of thing go and physically look at the car. Cause like you're spending a decent amount of money. I think we paid for that car back then. It was probably $5,000 or $6,000, which is a decent amount of money for 2013 or 14, maybe it was. but yeah, he went there. He verified that it ran well. He took like 20, 30 photos of it. He looked over the auction sheet and compared it to the car, because sometimes they can fully just bullshit the auction sheet. So yeah, I mean but it was, I think, almost $900 for him to do that additionally, right? So that's one thing you could do if you really want that. I mean, it's probably a good thing to do now if you're spending $20K on a chaser. Spend the extra $1,000 to make sure you're not getting a fucking $10,000 chaser for 20 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I bought my 180, it was like, I think I had like 76 photos to go through. And I was
Holy
like, okay.
shit.
I was like, okay, like that's a fair amount to look at.
Yeah.
And the Aristo had like,
I wouldn't even know how to take 76 photos.
And a lot of them were like the same thing, but like there was a ton, and it was like, and I'm pretty sure the Aristo had like 20 some photos, and I was like, okay. But the thing is, as I'll be very honest, I was just so excited about everything that was on the car and that it was a manual. I was like, cool. I was like, send it over. Yeah, I don't know what it would be like now buying a car. Like, I looked at buying.
The less of them there are, the less the picky you can be.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true too. Yeah, like for example, like our buddies that absolutely wanted a sunroof crown, like. You're not even looking at fucking 75% of the cars, because like you want that one specific thing that actually is like incredibly hard to find. So like your choices when that comes up are severely limited.
Why do they want?
Like they
Sorry, that's
it's like a luxury car.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Like
I mean,
give a fuck about a sunroof too, but
yeah, I remember same thing. They're like looking and looking and looking. They find one. And it's like got all this paint peeling and all this stuff that like normally that car would be like $4,500 to $5,500, but now it's $7,500, and it's like, well, am I really going to pay that for a car that's in this bad condition just because it has a sunroof?
Just because it has a big hole in the roof of the car? Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. I
mean, what same can be said for the factory aero. Like, like if you want the factory aero, like you could be passing up like a mint condition, the color you want, the engine you want, the interior you want, like, but it doesn't have the aero. So now you're like, I'll just wait for an aero car. So then you see an aero car and it's like, got like bunked out coilovers and like the fucking lights are yellow and the dash is cracked.
Many kilometers.
Yeah. But it has factory aero, sick. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I always feel like I look for the engine and the kilometers and maybe the grade of the car. Those are the things that I look at. It's interesting. I was never picky about interiors of cars. It's just not a thing that like crosses my mind.
Yeah, because you weren't into Toyotas that came with ugly fucking beige interior and like fake wood grain.
Yeah. But I mean, like the Aristo is what, like a black and blue interior, and I'm like,
well, that's because it's sick. Yeah, it's got the burl wood and like the
and
blue
I'm
Aztec
kind of like
seat.
a bit of a ricer.
The burl wood's sick. The blue seats kind of remind me of like Subaru, but
that's fine because I'm a bit of a ricer at heart. So I'm like, blue seats, cool. Like,
but imagine finding
like, why didn't you want leather? It's like, because I don't want to, like, one, this car was a manual, and two, like, I don't even know if I like leather seats. They're
I don't like
hot,
leather.
sticky.
Leather. But yeah, imagine you find a Mark II. You're looking for like a turbo JZX, and you find a Mark II, like JZX 110, and it's got beige interior with fucking grandpa spec wood grain, and you're like, and a foot brake. So like, sick. It's a JZX, but it's got a foot brake, wood grain, and beige fucking interior. Like fuck that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it's like two-tone or something. Like, I don't know, man. It never came two-tone, but like whatever.
No.
Like, it could just be just all the wrong things, but like it has the right sort of engine configuration, right?
I probably was always more drawn to the cars that were like partially done up too. So and then that's not maybe the best way to go about it, but
I mean, that's the thing. That's how it is when we sell cars, right? Like it's you buy with your eyes first.
Yeah.
You buy with your brain second.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, every time, we make a car, post up a car for sale, you have to make sure that the first impression of that car is fucking bang on. And like, it definitely like hits you in the feels, if you will, as opposed to like, oh, it's a good value purchase. Like nobody's thinking like that. I mean, probably a small amount of people are, but like most people are like, yo, that thing's fucking sick. I want it. And then they're like, well, maybe I should look at it, or maybe I should, just like exactly what you said. Like, maybe I should look at the 60 pictures past the 10 that I was like, yo, it has these wheels, or like, yo, it's got this arrow. Like, you know what I mean? They don't.
But it would have been very hard to convince me otherwise about the Aristo. Like, honestly, like it was just like,
you've already bought it.
Because it was like the price. I was like, holy shit, that's not even expensive. It's like under what I think is like a very expensive car. And in my world, I think like $16,000 is very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just like, oh, done. I'm surprised these questions went as far as they did. That's actually pretty good.
So what is this episode about? Mazda 3s and like when
Mazda
you look for
3s and right-hand drives.
Yeah.
Why doesn't anyone get a right-hand drive?
What to look
Mazda
for when buying a Mazda 3?
Yeah.
A different page.
Let's all buy right-hand drive Mazda 3s and just do that.
That's called an Excella.
I saw a right-hand drive Audi A3 the other day.
Yeah,
and the
buddy.
only reason it caught my eye was that all four wheels were sticking out of the fenders. Like not like a super stupid amount, but like just enough that you're like, what the heck? And like it drew my eye, and then I was like, that car's right-hand drive. It was just like a weird car to see right-hand drive.
I think a right-hand drive, for example, like a Japanese market, like E46 would be fucking sick. Like a right-hand drive BMW, like it's pretty cool.
Well, we all know that I already think all right-hand drives are better than left-hand drives.
And that you like Eurowagons versus.
And I like Eurowagons versus yes.
Could you imagine? Like that would be sick. A Japanese market E46 wagon, like with the M spec interior and shit. Like that's a pretty sick car.
That's a lot of flex right there.
Right?
Is it Japanese spec or is it German spec though?
I mean, it'd be cool if it was Japanese just to be right-hand drive. Like maybe it was UK spec. I don't know. Yeah. Most of the time, the good stuff comes from Germany, though, not UK.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. Okay.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Check you later.
Peace out.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Serial Podcast 9.